Alright, hello and welcome back to Conquering My Collection and another installment of Blu-ray Roulette. This seemed to go down really well, which I'm glad of, and honestly not surprised by, not to sound like a dick, but I really love doing that, and I'm sure that that was a bit infectious and came across on camera that I genuinely loved this idea and doing this. So we're going to do it again. Obviously I started it with the intention of making it an ongoing thing. But there's a few things I want to add before we get into this video's pick, the random pick. I talked about how if it's like a 10-hour long film, I'll reserve the right to skip it. And if for the uninitiated, I'm going to be looking at this watch list, which has every film I own on Blu-ray that I haven't seen yet. And I'm going to hit shuffle to see what the top one is here on the top left, and that's the film I'm going to watch next and talk about. So I mentioned I've taken away TV shows and shorts. I mentioned if there's like a 10-hour film, then I'll reserve the right to skip it. But also, if it's like a sequel to a film and I haven't seen the first film, I'll skip that too. And if it's a particular film that I have something planned for like a movie marathon or a series of videos, then I'll probably skip that too. But there's 879 films in this list with all the filters on. So there's a good chance it'll be something that I can't wiggle my way out of. So before we get, my voice broke there, I'll leave that in for free. Before we get to that, I found it quite interesting to sort these by, I mean, there's 879 films in here, and this is like all the most recent ones. So you can look at like the ones from the past couple of years, like Burning, Show of Four Sisters, Beast, The Breadwinner, The Truth. But I can also go by the earliest, so that would probably be a silent film. Yeah, we're going like really far back here to 1921. So that's interesting. And I also thought, because someone mentioned in the comments of the first video, there's so many classics I haven't seen, and how they were jealous of that or envious, which is understandable, because it's fun to see someone who hasn't seen a lot of films that you think are pretty great. And I thought it would be interesting, before we do this shuffle, to look at the highest rated film in my entire list. Let's do it. 12 Angry Men, not surprising in the slightest, followed by Showa. Yi Yi, I think that's how you pronounce it. The Edward Yang film, I believe. Schindler's List. Stalker, interesting. There Will Be Blood. I know that one is one I should watch. Apocalypse Now. The Handmaiden, Do the Right Thing. Fanny and Alexander. That's the top 10 right there, the gold standard. And then you have some Decalogue stuff, Ozu, Bergman, Lawrence of Arabia. I did think that one would be pretty high. There was another one, I think it's Popularity. So I think that's like, it has the most engagement on it, perhaps. So let's check that one out. The Lobster, really? Maybe I'm wrong about the engagement thing. I don't know how Popularity is judged, but The Lobster is #1 behind There Will Be Blood, Schindler's List, Apocalypse Now, and Saving Private Ryan. Mulan is in the top 10. I'm not quite sure. It seems like quite a random assortment of films. I'm not entirely sure where the popularity comes in, because I can't imagine a film like The Lobster or Stalker being wholly popular, if that makes any sense. Anyway, I thought it'd be fun to have a look at that quickly. And also, we could take a look at the shortest film, which is Akira Kurosawa, It Is Wonderful to Create. So that's some documentaries on Blu-rays and things, which I'll go into this a little bit. The way I've classified whether it's a film or not is if it's on Letterboxd, and if it's, I mean, how long is this Kagemusha documentary? 41 minutes. I mean, it's a produced documentary, and I for me, documentaries are films. There are like EPKs, which are, fluff pieces, but some of this stuff is really good. Anyway. Like the Shining documentary, the making of The Shining, that's like half an hour, but that's a great film, I think. Anyway, that's just me. Let's look at the longest film, which has surely got to be Showa. No, oh, Out One. So Out One from Jacques Rivette, which is 743 minutes. Then we have Showa, documentary about the Hellraiser movies, which I'm assuming is included on the Arrow box set. The complete saga cut of Battles Without Honor and Humanity, 1900, Les Miserables, Show of Four Sisters, and so there you go. There's a look at some of the more lengthier films. I'm kind of putting it off now because I'm excited, but I'm really like, just be gentle. Okay, we'll go back to like you know, in order of when I last added films to the list. Here we go, shuffle. Here's the moment of truth. Gamera versus Gaios. Holy shit. Now, okay, so here's something. Oh, Dark Passage was number 2. I didn't want to click on that. Here's something. I have the Gamera set. I have the Godzilla set. I planned on doing like a big monster movie season thing because I've got the Godzilla set, the Gamera set. I've got Mothra from Eureka. So it's like, let's just do a big B movie thing. But honestly, I can't imagine when I'm going to get the time to do that at this rate. Fuck it. I mean, I did say I would reserve the right to reshuffle if it was a sequel, and this is certainly a sequel. I don't know where it falls in the. I mean, the box set is right there. I could just. It looks like it's the 3rd film in the set, so I'm not sure if that's the 3rd film overall. Let's just take a look. Yes, Gamera versus Gaios. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. 1967, the 3rd film in the series. All right, so directed by Noriaki Yuasa. Let's do it. Let's just do it. I mean, it's 86 minutes. Should I probably see the first Gamera movie first? I guess, but I mean, I'm sure I'm not missing like some grand, setup here. It's like it says, giant monster dogfight. Why not? It's in the spirit of it. Fuck it. Like I said in the first one, fuck it. It's just so fun. It's so fun. I love doing this. I love doing this. So what do we have as potentials? Dark Passage, that would have been great. I love Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall together. Safe House, that would have been a wildly different film. Sherlock Holmes, High Noon, that's supposed to be a classic. Inferno, The Skycrawlers. Snow White, this film here, I would have passed on because it's a silent film that I want to do in an upcoming project. Watch the Skies. What the fuck is this? Director Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Ridley Scott, and James Cameron discussed the science fiction movies of the 1950s that influenced them. I have no idea what Blu-ray that's on, so it would take me forever to find it, but Gamera is right next to me. Anyway, so these were some of the potentials, but this is the one, Gamera versus Gaios. Let's do it. So I don't really need to look too far for the Gamera set because it's right next to my desk. I have it next to the Godzilla set there. Got my Stormtrooper bookend, Cooper and Laura, and here it is. It'll be Gamera versus Gauss, the 3rd movie. I'm not going to pull it out with one hand because it's all very delicate, and I don't want everything to topple over with these expensive box sets, which is why I have the Stormtrooper there, holding them in place. So let's get into it. Okay, so I am finished with Gamera versus Gauss. Gauss. That's apparently the correct pronunciation of the film, 1967. And I mean, terrible, absolutely awful. I mean, I had no illusions about this film being, anything special. I had no, preconceived ideas this was going to be high art. It was just awful. And I'm completely joking. I actually quite enjoyed it. So I would actually rate the film, I think, a 3.5 star out of 5. I'll even like it there. I'm going to save that and then go to this page here. So, Gamera versus Gauss. What did I think? There's kind of 2 main things I want to talk about. Number 1, the film itself. I was right in my assumption that there wasn't much I was missing from not seeing the previous 2 movies. I gathered that the first one was about Gamera, this big total monster who is a big threat to humanity, and they find a way of stopping it. And then the subsequent movies where it faces off against other monsters, it now becomes the kind of unwitting protector of humanity, and that's very much what happens in this film. Apparently, and I got this great context from the Blu-ray box set itself, this behemoth, the 3rd film, Gamera versus Gauss, they went in more of a child-friendly direction. They included a young boy character who kind of becomes weird friends with Gamera, and they have this kind of connection, which is portrayed quite nicely, actually, in both the young boy's performance and in some cool visual tricks. And so the story centers on this big kind of bat-like creature called Gauss, who surfaces after some underwater volcanic eruptions. And Gamera turns up, and I think there's three big kind of showdowns. And this film's like 80, was it 86 minutes? And so every half an hour, you're getting a big battle between the two of them. So I feel like you kind of, quote unquote, get your money's worth when it comes to kind of kaiju warfare in this film. And apparently that was something else they really wanted to do, was to make sure that the kids who went to see this would see the action, pretty early on, and wouldn't be bored by a lot of the, adults talking and everything. But I even liked all the bits where like the scientists were gathering and they had like the schematic of Gauss and talking about how it had two spines, I think, or yeah, because there was like two throats, and they kind of was speculating on how it could fire these laser beams and things. I liked all that stuff. It was done quite well, and the pace is so brisk that it really just clicked along really nicely. The special effects were charming in how bad some of them were, and impressive in how ingenious some of them were. There was one moment when Gauss is kind of, I'm not sure if it was flapping its wings, but this big wind comes in, it's ripping apart these buildings, and you see some of the characters, the two comedic, the comic relief characters in the film, and they get kind of blown away. But this one guy, he's like this, very slowly reacting to the wind, and he's being pulled up very slowly on a wire, and you can very clearly see the two wires dangling. It's just like, it's one of those things you wouldn't see on VHS or maybe even DVD, but Blu-ray does reveal a lot of those things, and there's a lot of wires visible in this film, and part of the charm, I think, for me personally. And a lot of my enjoyment purely was just seeing some of those techniques, even if they weren't as great or up to standard as, say, even the original Godzilla from 13 years earlier. I appreciated some of the, again, ingenuity and kind of the different, like the rear screen projection that they were doing. Miniature work. There's a lot of miniature work in this film. Like you'd imagine that, you get Gamera and Gauss in this kind of, mountainside. You imagine that's a miniature mountain. But then like a car drives across a bridge to a building, and it's a whole miniature car and everything. And it looks really cheap, but at the same time not cheap, because like building that whole model, kind of area wouldn't have been cheap. But, it very clearly looks like a model, But then they use kind of mats to kind of show humans, and then larger areas, which are then, very clearly smaller models, which it's a very weird kind of, it doesn't quite work, but I found it fun. And there's one thing in the film that I absolutely loved, and I would love to know that. I mean, who was the director? Noriaki Yuasa, and he did some. I think he did the first Gamera film, or I'm sure that he's like one of the more notable directors of the series. I'm no expert, but regardless, I would love to know if he intended this. About 40 minutes into the film, you've seen some of these miniature shots; they don't look entirely convincing. The young boy in the film who kind of becomes friends, and he's kind of the cheerleader for Gamera. We cut back to kind of his house, his grandfather's house, and the shot opens with a toy car running along the floor. And at first, it looks like another model shot, and I just thought, oh wow, they really didn't know how to shoot this properly, because you can see that's a toy car, like it's really badly done. Like that's a shame, because that really is bad. And then the camera comes out, or it cuts to a wider shot, and you see it's the boy playing with his toy cars, and it felt like such a self-reflexive kind of like, poking fun at itself. And I thought that if that's true, I mean, I would probably add like another star onto my rating, because I was so like taken with that as a gag. Because it's surely that they must have known what they were doing with that, because it seemed like it was just a really bad model shot, but it was actually just a kid playing with his toys. I thought it was kind of fun and self-referential, and I enjoyed that. The Gauss character, when it first appears, it's like, oh, because he picks up this guy, and then you see the guy's perspective of this big head, and the texturing isn't that great. It's kind of a flat, model and stuff. And I was like, oh, they didn't put a whole lot of effort into that. But as the film goes on, you see how much they put into like the dexterity of the wings, and obviously there's different versions. There's probably a guy in a suit at some point, and then like different things like animatronics, which are pretty rudimentary. Like the eyes. There's not much texture there. So you're not really seeing the highest standards when it comes to these kinds of special effects, but it shone through just in terms of I don't know. I like the character, At first, I thought it looked fucking stupid with the head, the kind of the weird flattened head. But towards the end of the film, it looked like an anvil. It looked like an anvil turned upside down, and there was just something about the way that the sound design worked in, how it would only come out at night, and you see the green glowing from the mountainside, which became this kind of like location that you associate with it. And there's a nice little subplot with these villagers. There's a kind of a causeway being made. I think there's this construction job, and these villagers are kind of holding out on signing off on their land to get more money. And then because of Gauss, it kind of complicates things. But for every like shot in the film where I thought, oh, you can see the wires there, and that was a bit poorly done. Then there'll be this amazing shot of Gauss flying over like a railway track and all the buildings exploding, or the young boy kind of lying down, and it fades into Gamera lying down in the ocean. He's wondering what's happened to Gamera. So like there's just nice stuff going on in the film overall. And the fights were fun, and there's a couple of bits that for me, in terms of the way these monsters are fighting, like some of the geography of the kind of action of the scenes weren't quite matching. I had to rewind it a couple of times to go, did I miss something there? Or no, it's just a little poorly done here and there. But overall, I actually really enjoyed it. And, this is just one of those really guilty purchases. Well, it's not guilty because I feel no guilt about it. But if I was to feel guilt about it, I'd call it a guilty purchase. This set is gorgeous, but I hadn't seen any of the films. But I kind of knew what I was, getting myself in for. And watching this, the first Gamera film I've seen, it kind of confirms everything. I know I'm going to enjoy these films, even if they're not as good as this one. And I have read this is actually one of the ones that is seen of, quite favorably, I suppose, among Gamera fans. But I mean, the set from the comic collection to the discs themselves, and I wanted to show you the book because this was really helpful because there's actually like introductions and kind of information on all the films. So when it came to this one, I could just flick to that page and get this gorgeous original poster artwork. Hopefully you can see that. And then like all the information of the film and a nice kind of, again, introduction by, I forget the guy who, like, Patrick Macias. So yeah, it's just really great information that, I watched the film, I want to know a little bit more about it, and this gorgeous book contains a lot of that information. So that's that. I think I'm going to leave it there, but I don't want to go on too long, and this is the curse with me. I'm so impressed with this box set because this is like the third film. There's like 12 films in the box set. This is like the third film in like a sub-series. Godzilla's the big one, You don't hear people talking about Gamera all that much. I know that it's kind of, there are hardcore fans of the Gamera movies, but, it's just one of those things where the third Gamera movie, do you expect there to be any special features for that? Probably not. The Criterion, Godzilla Showa era collection is very minimal on extras for each film. This one has so many extras that the Gamera vs. Gauss disc has the film, obviously, as you would expect, an audio commentary on the film, which is pretty cool, a filmed introduction, which was really good. I love the introduction. I forget the guy who did it, but he'd very clearly written it and was performing it on camera, but he was a bit playful, and he included some personal anecdotes, which I think are all, they're really lacking in a lot of special features. And when it's like, just say, a critic sitting down and talking about the film, I want to hear some of your personal reflections. That it makes it more enjoyable to me. That some of the more drier pieces can be fine in terms of learning details, but this guy worked, personal like stories. And he didn't it didn't dominate the piece, but he threw in a few things about watching the film when he was a kid and stuff and seeing it on TV, but then gives you a lot of great information about the context of the film, and then you see the clips. Very well put together. I thought that introduction was fantastic. And then there's a section in the special features that says alternate English credits. So I thought it would be the opening credits of the film in English for the English version of the movie. There is that. Then there's another English credits for a different English version of the film. Then there's different shots from the film that were shot specifically, cutaway shots of English signage. And they show you it in both 4:3 and widescreen aspect ratio, just for posterity's purpose. Then there's trailers. Then there's like the German trailer, I think, and then there's like a US television spot. There's like loads of stuff. I mean, shy of a full documentary on the making of the film. I was really surprised by the the wealth of and just the, yeah, it was just fantastic. I was really like, wow, I did not expect this film to have, you know, a really nice selection of special features. And as far as I'm aware, there's even meatier stuff for other films in the collection. So yeah, I think this is just an absolutely fantastic piece of work from Arrow Video. Now, I want to do something while we're here before we end. I thought this would be pretty fun. I'm really enjoying this series, as I'm sure you can probably tell, and I thought it would be fun to make a list. Where are my lists? Oh, here we go. My lists. So start a new list. We're going to start. I need to move this camera set out of the way because it's in front of my laptop. We're going to make the Blu-ray Roulette ranking list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to include every film as we go along through this journey and rank them, and that'll be something I can do at the end of the video, like where would I put it. And the fun thing is that they're going to be films that are so completely different from each other, and that's fun. So as we start here, and I'll turn this off public just in case. I don't know, it's weird because I think the videos might get more views if it's like Blu-ray Roulette, Gamma versus Gabs. But maybe not. Maybe the thrill is in finding out what it is and you experiencing that surprise along with me. I almost feel like it's a shame that, you know, maybe someone's looking for a review of Gamma versus Gauss and they'll miss it because of this. It's not in the title or anything, but, you know, I don't know. It is what it is. Leave me your thoughts. I'd like to hear your thoughts on how I should treat this series moving forward. But yeah, I would definitely put The Wonderful Horrible Life of Leni Riefenstahl at the top for the moment. But there we go. So we're going to save that there and then have a look at the list. And there it is. And, you know, it's a documentary from the 90s and a Japanese kaiju movie from the 60s. I can't wait to see what comes next. You know, so it'll just be a fun way of logging everything and kind of seeing where the order progresses over time. I was almost thinking earlier it'd be nice to do this as a podcast. I think it was a really good idea and has legs for a podcast, but there's only so much time in the day. And yeah, so I think I'll leave it there. Really, really enjoyed Gamma versus Gauss. It was just fun, you know, and quite colourful at times. And yeah, and Connie came in and watched some of it. You know, I was watching it in segments on my work breaks, and she was quite. There was one point where she was, "Oh, that's a really good shot. That the cinematography is quite nice there." And it was just a shot of a character looking down on two other characters, but it was framed really nicely. So, you know, that's one thing that people may write off movies like Gamma versus Gauss as just, you know, cheap, you know, kaiju movies, and they might be that, but at the same time, there's more often than not, there's some really good artists working on them, and they get their work in there. You know, they kind of sneak in really nice shots, you know, under the radar, which is nice to see. Anyway, I could just babble on, and yeah. So one more thing, I did, just one more thing. I'm turning to Columbo. I think that I'm going to leave it there. I was considering ending the videos with the next pick, you know? So then, because I can't wait to do the next one. I can't wait to, and I've been tempted to just hit shuffle and see what would be the next one. But I don't want to I don't want to waste a shuffle, you know what I mean? Because it's like, I feel like it's sacred almost at this point. And to hit that random shuffle, you know, where is it? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give that away because it's just, I don't know, because it could be something really great and I'd miss out on it if I did it just to see and then didn't make a video for it. So I'm eagerly awaiting the next one, but I think it's best to do it all in the one video, to kind of start the video, hit shuffle, see what it is, watch it, and then talk about it. I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause